What do you do when a ghost from your past sends you a friend request? She was the wife of the man I had an affair with, the woman whose marriage I helped destroy. Her message said she wanted peace. It said she wanted our children to know each other. For a moment, I actually believed her. I thought that maybe, finally, I could apologize, that I could find closure. But I was wrong. So terribly wrong. Because she wasn't just a messenger of peace. She was a messenger for him. And the request she delivered turned my entire world upside down, threatening the quiet life I built to protect my son. This is the story of how an offer of forgiveness became my worst nightmare. 3 weeks. For 3 whole weeks, a single unread message has been burning a hole in my digital life, like a ghost at the feast of my carefully reconstructed peace. It sits there in the filtered folder of my social media. A tiny red notification dot that feels as loud as a fire alarm in the dead of night. It's from a name I never thought I would see. A name that belongs to a life I meticulously amputated myself from. Sarah Whitaker. His wife. And now his ex-wife, if her single cryptic sentence is to be believed. My son Leo is asleep in his toddler bed down the hall. His breathing is the soft, rhythmic puffing of a tiny steam engine, a sound that has become the metronome of my life. It is the sound of my purpose, my joy, and my most profound, enduring regret. He is 2 years old. A whirlwind of blonde curls that catch the light just like his father's, and eyes so deeply blue they seem to hold the secrets of the ocean. He is a perfect, beautiful, innocent little boy. And he is the living, breathing evidence of the worst mistake of my life. I made a post online 3 weeks ago, a desperate shout into the void of the internet, seeking anonymous counsel because the real world felt too small to contain my secret. I typed out the bare bones of the story. The cold, hard facts that still feel like a confession every time I think them. I had an affair with a married man. I knew it was wrong. I got pregnant. I kept the baby. I ran away. Things have only gotten stranger since then, more complicated. The silence I had cultivated for 2 years has been shattered by that one message, and its echo is deafening. It's funny how memory works. It isn't a linear film. It's a chaotic collage of moments, sensations, and feelings. When I think of him, David, I don't first see the man who turned cruel. I see the man who captivated me. It's a bitter pill to swallow, acknowledging that power he had. I was 24, fresh out of college and new to a city that felt vast and intimidating. I was working a junior marketing job, feeling like an imposter every time I swiped my keycard. He was a client. Older, confident, exuding an energy that seemed to bend the very air around him. He was the kind of man who never seemed to sit down, a tightly coiled spring of kinetic energy. He ran marathons, climbed mountains on weekends, and spoke with a passionate intensity about everything from quarterly earnings to the proper way to brew coffee. Our first few meetings were strictly professional, but there was a current running beneath them. The way his eyes would hold mine a second too long. The way he'd find an excuse to brush his hand against mine when passing a document. I was naive, yes, but I wasn't stupid. I knew the signs. I saw the thick platinum band on his left hand. And I ignored it. I allowed myself to be swept away because, for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen by someone I considered extraordinary. He told me the story that has likely been told to countless young women by countless married men. It's a classic for a reason. We're just married on paper, he'd say, stirring his black coffee in a cafe halfway between his office and mine, our little neutral ground. It's for the kids. They're teenagers now, a delicate age. A divorce would shatter them. Sarah and I, we're just roommates. We haven't shared a bed in years. I allowed myself to believe him. I wanted to believe him. I built a fantasy around his words, a world where I wasn't a homewrecker but a rescuer, the one who was offering him the real love and connection he was starved of. We created a bubble. A secret world of late-night calls, clandestine meetings in boutique hotels, and weekend trips disguised as business conferences. In that bubble, the guilt was a distant hum, easily drowned out by the intoxicating rush of his attention. He made me feel like the center of the universe. The crash, when it came, was inevitable. The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test didn't feel real. They were an alien symbol, a message from a world I hadn't prepared for. My first feeling wasn't joy or fear, but a profound sense of cosmic irony. Our bubble had been burst by the most real, most tangible consequence imaginable. When I told him, the shift was immediate and brutal. The charming, captivating man vanished, replaced by a cornered animal. We were in his car, parked in a dark, deserted lot overlooking the city lights, a place that had once felt romantic. An abortion, he said. Not as a question but as a command. His hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight ahead as if he could will the problem away. It's the only option, Clara. You have to understand. This changes everything. It ruins everything. It's not just a thing, David, I whispered, my hand instinctively going to my still flat stomach. It's a baby. Our baby. It's a problem, he hissed, and the venom in his voice made me flinch. A problem you need to solve. I'll pay for it. For the best clinic, whatever you need. But my name cannot be attached to this. Do you understand me? That was the beginning of the end. Over the next few weeks, he became increasingly nasty. The loving texts were replaced by terse, demanding messages. The secret calls became interrogations. The man who had captivated me was now trying to bully me, to erase the one part of our affair that couldn't be deleted. The whole sordid situation, the weight of my own poor choices, and the ugliness of his true character came crashing down on me. The love, or what I had mistaken for love, curdled into something sour and shameful. I ultimately decided to keep the baby. It was the first decision I made in a year that felt truly my own, untainted by his influence. It was a choice for me and for the tiny life inside me. I promised him, in one last cold 10-minute phone call, that I wouldn't expose our affair. I wouldn't formally identify him as the father. I wouldn't come after him for child support. It wasn't a gift to him. It was a gift to myself. I felt like, due to the colossal mess that I had created, a clean break, a complete and total severance, would be the best thing for everyone. Especially for my son. I didn't want that poison, that anger, that man, anywhere near my child. So I ran. I quit my job, packed 2 suitcases, and moved back to my hometown, hundreds of miles away from him and the life he lived with his real family. I crawled back to the safety of my own parents, tail between my legs, and started over. For 2 years the silence worked. I built a fortress around myself and my son. A quiet life of playdates, part-time work from home, and the gentle, unconditional love of my family. David became a ghost, a bad memory I pushed further and further down. Until that message arrived. Hi Clara. This is Sarah Whitaker. We've been divorced for about 6 months now. I was hoping we could talk. I want our children to be able to know each other. Our children. The words felt like a physical blow. Their kids were teenagers. A boy and a girl, I remembered from the little he had told me. Why on earth would they want anything to do with me, the woman their father had an affair with, and my toddler, their secret half-brother? The whole thing seemed bizarre. A trap. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it a scam? Was she going to sue me? Was it really even her? After posting my story online, the consensus was clear. Ignore it. It's not worth the risk. And I agreed. It was the safe choice, the logical one. She only sent the one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me. Ignoring it was easy. And yet it lingered. Tonight, on a quiet Friday night with Leo sound asleep and the house filled with a silence that felt heavier than usual, I did the one thing I promised myself I wouldn't do. I messaged her back. I don't really know why. It wasn't a logical decision. It was an emotional one, a sudden, overwhelming urge that came from a place of deep, unresolved guilt. For 2 years, she had been a faceless victim in my mind, a shadowy figure I had wronged. The message, her name, gave her form. And I realized that I couldn't move on completely until I faced that. I needed, for my own sake, for the peace of my own soul, to apologize to her. My fingers trembled as I typed. Hi Sarah. I got your message. I'll be honest, this is a lot to take in. Before we talk further, I'd be more comfortable speaking with you face to face, or at least on a video call, to be sure I can trust that it's really you. It was a test. A way to gauge her reaction, to see if this was some elaborate catfish scheme. Her reply came within minutes. I completely understand. That's smart. A video chat would be fine. When would be a good time for you? My heart hammered against my ribs. This was real. This was happening. We scheduled it for the following evening. I spent the next 24 hours in a state of suspended anxiety. I cleaned my small apartment obsessively, as if she could see the dust through the webcam. I changed my outfit 3 times, settling on a plain gray sweater that felt appropriately somber. I didn't know what to expect. My imagination ran wild. Was this all a ploy to get me on camera just so she could unleash a torrent of righteous fury on me? Was she going to record it and post it online? I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. I had rehearsed my apology 100 times in my head, but the words felt flimsy, inadequate. When my laptop rang with the incoming call notification, I almost didn't answer. I took a deep breath, smoothing my sweater for the 4th time, and clicked, accept. Her face appeared on my screen. It was really her. I recognized her from the single family photo David had kept on his desk, the one he'd claimed was just for show. She looked older than in the photo, of course. Tired. There were fine lines around her eyes that spoke of stress and sleepless nights, but she held herself with a quiet, steely dignity. Her hair was cut in a sensible, stylish bob, and she was in what looked like a home office, bookshelves lining the wall behind her. "Hello, Clara," she said. Her voice was steady, calmer than I had any right to expect. "Sarah," I breathed, my own voice barely a whisper. "Thank you for doing this." We sat in an awkward, pixelated silence for a moment. I knew I had to be the one to break it. I was the debtor here. "Sarah, I don't know where to begin," I stammered, the carefully rehearsed words abandoning me. I need to say I am so sorry. For everything. For my relationship with your husband. There's no excuse for it. I knew he was married and I was selfish and I caused you and your family unimaginable pain. And I am truly deeply sorry." The tears I'd been holding back started to fall. It was a pathetic, blubbering apology, but it was honest. She watched me, her expression unreadable for a long moment. Then she gave a small, sad sigh. "Thank you for saying that," she said, and her voice was laced with a weariness that went bone deep. "I appreciate it. I forgive you." I was so stunned I stopped crying. "What?" "I forgive you," she repeated, a little stronger this time. "Don't get me wrong, when I first found out, I hated you. I harbored a lot of anger towards you. I imagined 100 different horrible things I'd say to you if I ever saw you. But that was a year ago. Time, and a lot of therapy, changes things. While I'm not saying you're blameless in this, I ultimately blame my husband. He was the one who made the vows to me. He was the one who lied to us both." She told me how she found out. It was after our relationship had ended, after I had already moved away. She had a suspicion, a gut feeling that had been gnawing at her for years. One day she looked through his old phone bills, his credit card statements. She found the hotel charges, the late-night calls. She eventually found a string of emails between us that he had forgotten to delete, emails where we planned one of our business trips. She told me in a voice devoid of self-pity that I was one of many women he had affairs with over the course of their 20-plus-year marriage. She knew about someone even before he met me, but she hadn't divorced him then. For the kids. For the life they had built. She had hoped it was a phase, a midlife crisis he would get over. "Finding out about your child, though," she said, her gaze turning distant. "That was the final straw. It was one thing to cheat. It was another thing entirely to create a whole new life, a whole other family, and keep it a secret. That was a line he couldn't uncross." I listened, my own guilt churning with a strange new emotion, a bizarre, misplaced sense of solidarity with this woman. We had both been lied to by the same man. And then the floodgates opened. It was as if my apology had unlocked a door she had kept sealed for years. She started pouring out her heart to me, the woman who had helped destroy her marriage. She talked about their life together, from their optimistic beginnings to the slow, painful erosion of their love. She told me about the loneliness, the gaslighting, the constant feeling that she was going crazy. She painted a portrait of a man obsessed with his own needs, his own desires, a perpetual adolescent in a grown man's body. It was incredibly, profoundly awkward. What do I even say to that? I was a spectator to the wreckage I had helped create. I just nodded and listened and murmured, "I'm so sorry," over and over again until the words lost all meaning. "My kids know," she said, her voice dropping. "They know about you and they know about your son." My blood ran cold. "They're very angry with their father. They barely speak to him. Somehow, I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved in my son's life. Why would they be? If I were them, I would hate me. I would hate the very existence of the child who was the symbol of their family's implosion." I finally found my voice. "Sarah, about your suggestion, about our children meeting. With my son being so little right now, I don't feel comfortable with that. Not yet. It's too much. I feel so unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now." She nodded, seeming to understand. "I get it. Of course. It was just a thought." A heavy silence fell between us again. I thought the conversation was winding down, that we had reached a place of painful but peaceful closure. I was wrong. "There's something else, Clara," she said, her tone shifting. She looked nervous for the first time. "It's about David." My stomach clenched. "He was in a bad accident 2 months ago," she said, the words coming out in a rush. "A cycling accident. He was hit by a car. It was really bad. He was in the hospital for weeks." I stared at her, speechless. The image of David, the man who was a monument to physical fitness, the man who barely ever seemed to sit down, laid up in a hospital bed was impossible to conjure. He's fine now, she added quickly. Well, he will be. He's home recovering. Still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, which is driving him absolutely insane. He must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She said this with a flicker of the exasperation of a long-suffering wife, a ghost of their shared past. When he first came home from the hospital, I moved back in with him. Temporarily. Just to help him get back on his feet. The kids wouldn't, and he had no one else. She looked down as if ashamed of this admission. The accident, it really shook him up, Clara. It was a real come-to-Jesus moment for him. He's been different. She looked up, her eyes locking onto mine through the screen. And then she delivered the final devastating blow. He wants to meet your son. He's been expressing so much regret. About Leo. About not being involved, not providing for him. He says he sees it all differently now. The world tilted on its axis. The air in my lungs turned to ice. Every word she had said up to that point, the forgiveness, the shared blame, the story of their marriage, was instantly cast in a new, sinister light. Was everything she said just a lie? My mind, which had felt a strange sense of relief just moments before, was now a hornet's nest of suspicion. Was this entire conversation, this carefully crafted performance of forgiveness and female solidarity, just a Trojan horse? Did he, the master manipulator, somehow get her to do his dirty work, to reach out to me on his behalf? And did she actually agree to it? The relief I had felt talking to her, the unburdening of my guilt, it all felt like a sham now. Was any of that true? Or was she just his messenger, playing the part she needed to play to get to the final objective? The part about him having an accident? I don't even know if that's true now. It could be another lie in a long chain of them, a story designed to soften me up, to make me pity him. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? The answer came to me with a sickening certainty. Because he knew I wouldn't listen. He knew I had blocked his number, deleted his email, and erected a wall of silence he couldn't breach. He knew the only person on earth who might be able to get through that wall was her. The woman I had wronged. The one person to whom I owed an apology and therefore a conversation. The call ended a few minutes later. I don't remember what we said. Polite, meaningless pleasantries, I assume. The moment her face vanished from my screen, I stumbled away from my laptop and into the bathroom, where I retched into the toilet, my body trying to expel a poison that was purely emotional. I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. The conversation replays in my head on a loop, an endless, torturous cycle. Every word she said is now suspect. I forgive you. Was that a genuine act of grace, born from therapy and time? Or was it the first move in a calculated chess game, a disarming tactic to make me lower my guard? I ultimately blame my husband. A way to create a false alliance? To make me feel like we were on the same side, united against him? The accident really shook him up. He's been expressing so much regret. The perfect, almost cliché story of a near-death experience leading to a profound change of heart. It's a narrative straight out of a movie. Too neat. Too convenient. I creep down the hall and stand in the doorway of Leo's room. The moonlight streams through his window, illuminating the soft curve of his cheek. He is so small. So perfect. My fortress. For 2 years, my single, unwavering mission has been to protect him. To protect him from the chaos and toxicity of his father. I made a choice, a hard choice, that no contact was better than the kind of contact David would provide. I didn't want my son to be a dirty secret, a weekend diversion, or an emotional punching bag for a man who only thinks of himself. And now this. A potential invasion. My mind spirals, exploring every dark possibility. What does he want? Does he really want to be a father? Or is this something else? A play for sympathy? A way to control me again? Maybe his accident left him with staggering medical bills, and he suddenly remembered he has another potential source of income, or rather, a dependent he can claim. Or maybe, in his forced stillness, his boredom, he simply decided he wants a new toy to play with. A son. And Sarah. What is her role in this? Is she a willing accomplice? Did he manipulate her too, preying on her lingering sense of duty? The idea of her moving back into care for him, even temporarily, is baffling. After everything he did to her. Is their connection, their history, that enmeshed? Or is she just as trapped as I was, in a different way? The unease is a physical thing. It's a cold knot in the pit of my stomach. It's the static hum of anxiety under my skin. I pick up my phone, my thumb hovering over her contact information. I want to call her back, to scream at her, to demand the truth. Are you lying to me? Is he making you do this? but I don't. Because I know I won't get a straight answer. If she's lying, she'll just lie again. I am back in the same place I was 2 years ago, tangled in the web of a man I can't trust, facing a future that is suddenly uncertain and terrifying. But this time it's different. This time I'm not a naive 24-year-old. I'm a mother. And the fortress I built for my son may have just had its gates breached. The echo of her words, of his supposed regret, is no longer just an echo. It's the sound of footsteps approaching in the dark. And I have no idea if they belong to a friend or a foe or something far more complicated and dangerous than either. The silence is broken. And I am terrified of what comes next. And that's where I am now. Trapped in this impossible situation, reliving every word of that conversation, trying to figure out what's real and what's a manipulation. I have to ask you, what would you do? Do you trust her? Do you believe he's really changed? And the biggest question of all, do you let him into your life and more importantly into your son's life on the off chance that he's telling the truth? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you or if you just want to find out what happens next, please take a second to hit that like button. It really helps more than you know. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part of this story. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next one.